I had to have two special guests on, as they're teaming up together again, bringing the band back together like Avengers to solve insurance and InsurTech problems. Becky Monfre Bobbie Collies, thanks for joining me today. From Coterie, we had to hear some background story about you two getting back together to cause some trouble again.
Great to be here, Brett. I'm actually gonna let Becky lead on this conversation because she went first. So this is the first time she went first. So you can give a little bit of background on our superhero sidekick story, Becky, and then talk about this new gig that we have.
Yeah. So Bobbie and I have worked together now. This is really like our fourth roles, third company. So we've worked together in underwriting capacity, sales and marketing capacity, and now in distribution at Coterie. I was just saying how sometimes it feels like we're Adam Sandler movies where you get to bring along the people that you love to work with, even if sometimes you're working in parallel, you're not always on the same screen together, but have been having really a ton of fun and loving what Coterie is doing, and that we went from both very traditional insurance background history. I mean, we both have underwriting background, right, where we're making middle market choices and reviewing ISO reports and fire hazards and
wind hail deductibles.
Yeah, putting together hail programs and a Colorado and that. So having this opportunity to do something really digital and InsurTech and fun, but also bringing along all the stuff we know, right, in insurance and traditional and supporting our agency force and getting to meet new agents and getting to meet really cool people along the way.
Yeah, I think that's huge. We were talking about our buddy Tony ahead of time, him and Abel Travis State's insurance and technology, InsurTech. And I've really been impressed by the bench, that Coterie's been building between Pete, Ray Lynch, yourselves, just kind of bringing that traditional knowledge. Ray's the best. I knew eventually it probably happened pretty quick, but roll back to the Ask Kodiak trivia.
Yeah.
It's so funny, but that's where a lot of these threads started. And, I really appreciate those guys bringing me in. I remember Ray being like, who's this guy call himself Broker Brett? That's pretty audacious. I was like, hey man, it's a happy accident.
I think that's actually how I was introduced to you, was via Ask Kodiak gear on Twitter. So we were both like sporting some shirts running, and then Alan and Mike were like, hey, do you know Broker Brett? And so like the rest is history there. And then trivia and happy hours, all under COVID.
Yeah, no, the Ask Kodiak guys, there's something really different and interesting about the InsurTech community and the openness and trying to build and learn. Like I love, silly little InsurTech Twitter. Like I'm not sure how many other jobs or verticals, maybe like if you're into real estate or something, you're like, man, that's a great building. But how many people talk about tech or hang out with their friends, around the subject that they're working on even after hours? Surprises me. I don't know what it is about insurance. Sorry.
Well, specifically around InsurTech, I think there's just because the impetus was only about 5 years ago, Brett, like when it really became a thing. There's people that just like grabbed onto it, became passionate about it, and I feel like Mike and Alan and Ask Kodiak have been like the unofficial Match.com folks of the InsurTech world, just bringing like really smart people together to learn from each other. And to your earlier point, what I love about the community that we're in is like it's not ultra competitive, right? Like we're all just trying to push the industry forward, and you're seeing us collaborate and bounce ideas off of one another versus trying to keep it under lock and key because it's super secret, right?
It reminds me of two things. So one, like all ships rise with the tide, right? So as we all just get better, everyone gets better. But then there's also another industry I love, which is like beer brewers, craft breweries, and they like trade recipes or like they talk about it, right? It's very collaborative, where they get together and do the blended, hops or yeast blends. And like that's kind of like this InsurTech space to me. It's like people just kind of getting together and saying like, how can we make these two things work? Or like, tell me what you know about this so I can figure out how to do that. And it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think there's a blue ocean to it. There's so many risks. There's so much business to write. So many people to help. So many people who aren't being served properly today. 10 years ago, it's Main Street. It's who you can knock on a door. Who's going to get that seat, the leads group at the round table, which all that stuff still works, but I think it has all kind of spread out. And I think our industry makes us naturally a little bit paranoid too and worried. And we want to make sure we're doing it right. So we're collaborating to make sure we don't blow up,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and there's all the regulatory folks that we have to deal with too, Brett, right? So there's a lot of rules to the game, but like this is a big nut to crack. And I think in isolation, we just can't crack it on our own. So it's fun to just, some of my best days are when I get to talk to folks like you and other people within our community and just like have very intelligent conversations on trying to solve some problems. Like those are like, I get super jazzed up on those days. Like those are the days when I leave my work day and I'm like, I have so much energy. I'm so excited about what we're doing.
So I've sold, I think we're halfway through the month. I've sold 4 policies this month. So I promise I do actual insurance work too. But whenever my wife's around the house, like during the week, I'm almost embarrassed because I'm like, it's like work buddies, but we're like talking for like a half an hour, walking around, having fun. It's like, this is my job. And I got equity in some of this stuff. It's
how many of those 4 policies were Coterie policies?
Yeah, I was just going to ask the same thing. Like,
no, but they didn't fit. It was this will give you an idea of my randomness. 1 home auto bundle, 1 life, 1 new homeowners policy, and then 1 tech E&O cyber policy for an API driven company. So, but I promise anything kind of Main Street, what do I need to look out for? Contractors, Main Street, kind of small business.
We'll write new business.
All right. I'll take you up on that.
Think through that. And also up to 50% liquor sales.
I was gonna say I've got a lot of restaurant experience and I've yet to write a restaurant. I think I'm just scared. I think it's like restaurants and moving companies. I know them both too well to want to write the business. I'm like, I know what goes on back there. I know what, after the restaurant closes, the shenanigans or the people wearing non-slip shoes. I told Ray that once. I was like, man, I think I would just write restaurants that have non-slip shoes on. If they're doing that, everything else should be fine. If the managers are paying attention to the footwear, I think they're good. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
As an underwriter, I had a couple like very blanket rules. Like if you have to stop at railroad tracks to like check to see if there's a train coming, I probably shouldn't write that auto.
That's funny.
And also, would I eat there? That was my restaurant rule. Would I go there?
Yeah. Or hotels. Would I actually sleep there with my kids? Like that was another rule. Like if I wouldn't actually sleep there with my kids, I feel like I shouldn't write it.
So kind of a random thing to mention, but probably why I overthink things and don't sell as much business as I should. My first stint, I took over the CEO's territory downtown LA for office moving sales, and he made me paranoid about everything. So I think it makes me a good frontline underwriter as an insurance guy, but I probably think myself out of deals a lot, which is trouble. Yeah.
It's all right. You're what every carrier wants to hear, right? Like that you're only going to give them good business and frontline.
I feel very good about my sliver little book. I should pay attention to it more, but I sleep well. Luckily I pay the bills through a couple things, but I like my book of business I got going so far. Yeah.
It is so true that in the industry, like when you walk into even like, go to Las Vegas, right? You just see the world through such a different angle, and you're thinking about risk and like wonder what the self-insured retention is on that. just kind of crazy how you just see things through such a different lens.
Well, even buying an expensive bike helmet, you're around health and life insurance and all that. You're like, I'm gonna spend a lot of money on this helmet. I spent 3 times as much money on a helmet as I did on my bike, but it's pretty funny. It's silly. And then to kind of fanboy or fangirl you guys a little bit. So I always have this prediction that eventually insurance folks are just gonna be like relationship managers. The data is going to be kind of churning in the backside and you're going to have the ability to move around the risk or find a home for it. We're going to do less paper shuffling, less data collecting. You guys are doing that already. You're doing the hard work for the folks out there to kind of set things up and to digitally see if you want to eat at that restaurant before you go there. So it's pretty cool, the processes you have in place. And I think it's fun. The fact that you're deploying them in environments where it can kind of run on itself, and then you're also giving it to the agents, to kind of get out there and see what they can make happen in the world. But
well, and the fun thing, Brett, is we don't need you to frontline underwrite anymore.
Yeah, right.
Like Pete's automated underwriting engine is so sophisticated, and we're getting so much third-party data that we're like, just give us the name and the address of the risk, and let us do our thing, and we'll let you know if we want it or not.
Well, yeah, verify, right? Like double check. Always perfect, but now you're literally like, I think about from a prospecting standpoint, like we can actually give you more information than, we're not having you fill out the Cord 125 form and asking questions that you would never even really ask an insured about their status and, who's, if they're sponsoring a race car, like
you're working over 15 feet, you're working below 5 feet in the air. No, it's super fascinating. And I think not in your portal, I need to get back in your portal, but it's some of the other ones I've seen. The data is 80% of the way there, 90% of the way there, good enough to like have an eye on the risk. And then you kind of like tune it up a little bit for the submission, which I think is very interesting. And it reminds me of some life insurance startups, not Fineo. Shout out to Fineo. We're building a cool marketplace, plug that. But what they kind of do is rate like people are not in great shape, and they just show the policy out there because it's going to fit 80 to 90% of the market. But what's cool I've seen in P&C is like, it'll get really close. You're a delta off of what it might be if you're getting like the boots on the ground data. It's really impressive. Yeah. And look forward to digging in what you guys are up to more. Yeah, I need to revisit. I had a great time meeting with Pete too. We had a really cool, webinar back in the day for Coterie as well. But awesome guy. Yeah. What do you guys see for, a couple years out? Like, I feel like Coterie is already doing the things that we'd hope, insurance could do in 5 years. You're already a little ahead of the curve. I wonder how you folks keep iterating over there and keep kind of staying, a few steps ahead.
I don't know. I have some pretty big dreams, Brett. Like, I think that as you think about, larger or even smaller independent agents, as they look to do some more like, maximize their revenue with their books, I think there's some things that Coterie can do there in the not so distant future, right, to help them with that. Whether that's like book consolidation, or even if you think about, Becky and I, even, when was this? This was probably 3, 4, 5 years ago. We talked about like more like a Zillow type of app for brokers, where we could, pre-rate risks and have them ready to go. And you guys could just like get on a map and look at it and be like, okay, this one is going to generate the most revenue for me with Coterie. I'm just going to go see if I can sell them insurance today and get on the road and boots on the ground. So I think there's just so many things that we can do with it. What I'm most excited about is we're just setting up our model to be super flexible and nimble. So we can take it in any direction that we get creative enough to think through, right? Which is super fantastic.
I had a similar idea, like a Google Chrome plugin, and we're just, we're deep in the pod now. So if people hang on this long, they can steal some ideas potentially. But there's an app called Data Miner that'll just pull pages of like names, address, companies. It's a free Google Chrome extension, the scraper, but you could have like, Coterie version of that, get your name, address, price, just kind of shoot out lines, whatever else. There's all sorts of fun stuff that can happen. Yeah.
Well, I just think about like the sales cycle for commercial business, and like, how do we help solve for like shortening that cycle? Because that's efficiency gains are, right, is like, how do we get more policies to our agents or to our partners? Like, let's just be super efficient together. And that's how we grow, right? It's like, we all have these expectations as consumers, right, to have like instant gratification, and why not bring that to the insurance space and make money doing it?
And I'll call myself out on that tech, in cyber. So non-admitted, I tried my admitted lines first, figured I'd got shut down. It took a month to turn it around. Doesn't feel long, doesn't feel short. I was like, hey, you did all right. I gave myself a C on that, but our industry is a little slow. It's a little tough sometimes. But yeah, no, I think Coterie's building some really cool tools. I always, it's been interesting for me because, went from office moving to a personal lines role with the ability network commercial, applied for like 70 jobs to get a pretty goofy one. A couple other goofy sales jobs, applied to like 60 jobs, got offered, kind of like assistant to assistant roles at like 33. I was like, I got to try to do something bigger. So start my own brokerage. I started with the InsurTechs because I couldn't get to anything else. And they were really cool, First Connect guys out of, Texas, really nice. So started there, found Smart Choice, have been awesome. They're really nice, the little guy. But it's been funny going full circle to like the InsurTechs take care of me. Oh, cool. Here are these traditional carriers I can get to. And then now seeing it kind of as one, and like, what's the best tool for the day? What do you need? Who's going to have good paper? Who's going to make it easy on the customer? How do we take care of them? Who do you think will pay a claim? Just kind of going to those basic questions. Yeah. My underwriting rules I stole from my buddy Andrew Carell from Insurance Requirements. It's who are you? What do you do? How do you do it? And who do you do it for? He's like, I don't care, what you say you are. Those are kind of the snooping questions.
Yeah. All like fair, solid questions, right? Like the basics of who, what, when, where, why, how.
Yeah. And then to your team's credit too, I do have a buddy who's actually placed a really good amount of business with you guys, and he had an insured call in and pretend like they had a claim and kick the tires on the whole Coterie system. Like, okay, they're good. Yeah, we'll work with them. You guys have had some really good feedback, and he's super honest. He's got like a $3 million book. There's other InsurTechs that he's been like, they don't know what they're doing yet, but he got nice feedback from one of my more established agent buddies. So.
I think that when you just spoke to like iterating on things too, like that's where we're at right now at Coterie. Is we have a system built, right, but we want to get better. We're trying to fine tune. There's still such a big opportunity. When you said like blue ocean, right, that's like the processes, the procedures, that those are all like following, right, that we're getting better, and we have a ton of super smart people and super passionate people that are committed to that mission and want to see it grow. So it's been awesome to be along for that ride and just be surrounded by people that are super passionate about what they're doing.
Well, and I think for the first time in my career, I'm surrounded by people who are just as impatient as I am too, Brett. Like, I feel like in the past, I've heard from so many people, Bobbie, just be patient, right? That time will come. I'm like, no, like, why can't it be now? And so we're finally surrounded with a bunch of folks who want to sprint, right? And run fast. And to Becky's point, like, we haven't solved all the problems yet, but we solved some of the big ones. And so as we start to fine tune our model, it's going to be really exciting. I think, especially for our broker and agency partners, on just the types of different services and how we're kind of reinventing how we work together between Coterie and an agent. It's different, and it's better, and it comes with the whole speed, simplicity, and service tagline that we're really pushing out and trying to accomplish. So it's fun.
Don't feel too bad about the impatience. My last stop, it was like this. It was like a supplemental benefits HR spinoff of an old lobbying advocacy organization, super random. But I took this kind of involved personality test, and I had low patience and I had low formality. But they call that like a maverick line, like a CEO line. So you can feel good, Bobbie. Your impatience just means moving the ball downfield. Let's keep it simple. Let's get things done. Let's not overcomplicate this.
Yes. I was just going to speak to the fact that when you do come from kind of a traditional organization, corporate, to the startup world and the InsurTech space, it does, like to Bobbie's point, like, wait, we're surrounded by people that are just as impatient, or you must have to do like a little bit of a detox and start thinking about like, oh, I really can make this decision, or, you're able to move fast and pivot, and you have to like retrain your own mind to be nimble, and just be flexible with some of that. And so it's again awesome, but it's like, oh, what's a little bit of a shock walking into that door.
Well, and they'll need your influence too. And I think it's just always good to be mindful of your natural tendencies. Like one thing I've done lately is like, I'll write stuff on Word, even if it's gone to LinkedIn or whatever else, to slow myself down and take an extra beat. Little barriers you can build for yourself to kind of detune or tune up, whatever your natural default is. It is interesting to think about where your team's at, because I think it's unique. I know there's some like, I'll call API driven like multiple product distribution, but I really haven't seen kind of an embedded intelligent, play that's kind of got it all consolidated for commercial brokers. So I really do think you guys are kind of alone in the pack right now, which is always an interesting place to be for sure. And you can kind of set pace, kind of only chasing yourselves right now. So you had worked at larger carriers before, and you had Integrity and Grange. I like the Thimble model. I want to say it's Thimble. I think I'm using the wrong one, but that Farmers did, where they built their own stack for like a renter's product in like South Carolina. So you still have all the farmers over here, and then it's not Thimble, it's someone else, but then they had like one vertical that they're building here, and they're leaving it alone, letting it kind of self-nurture and grow. I know another really wealthy family that started a pet insurance startup just to kind of get a toe in the water InsurTech in a less scary environment. Having been at a big carrier, now being at a fast running InsurTech, is there any advice you'd throw back over the wall to the big carriers about change? Best practices you've seen or you like?
Well, here's what I'll say, Brett. Like a lot of traditional carriers, they're at or above market for growth, and they're making money, right? So they almost have to take a very intentional approach to your example with farmers on incubating anything that they want to do that's going to be very bold or different than their current model, because otherwise it just kind of gets stuck in the fold of prioritization of everything else that carrier needs to do to continue on their current path. So I think once you do that and you can really incubate the operations of whatever innovative thing that you want to do, and you can resource it well, then that's where a traditional carrier can see success. But I think a lot of traditional carriers are really hesitant to do that. And until they can get over that hump and really invest in those types of bold things, it's going to be more of the same, right? But which is fine, right?
Yeah.
They're still doing well. They're performing well. Yeah. They're just not great breeding grounds for talent that's really impatient like us. I think that's yeah.
Yeah, to Becky's point, they're doing what they're supposed to do, right? They're growing, and I can see you don't change a battleship. Part of like the slowness to change is also like a protective measure, for giant organizations. So it's really interesting, and you wonder if they'll just we're probably hitting a little bit of choppy water right now. They'll probably come out in a week. We're mid-May. Maybe they'll scoop up some little struggling ones. They'll bring them onto the big boat. Like, hey, keep doing your thing. Come over here. We've got resources for you. So it should be an interesting phase coming up. But yeah, and to your point, if it's working, you don't change for change's sake, but I think you see the technology that's available today and try to use it. There's actual wars going on, and I don't want to over dramatize what we do, but a war usually has the best technology wins. That was the way I thought about it too. And then also you want to use the tried and true. So I guess it's all about balance, place, fit, time, customer appeal,
Well, and I think that's actually one of the areas that Coterie is excelled in, is they do have people that have never touched insurance before, right? That are very great at their crafts, and they know customers, or they know the technology. They're not being cultivated right from only the insurance industry, where then you have folks like Bobbie and myself that we are insurance people through and through. So we're bringing that expertise and saying well, how does this fit in the existing marketplace? How will our agents see us? How can we be enough like the old regime, but also innovative enough to make it fun and solve their problems? My better half, I guess, at Coterie, we have a shared role, and she doesn't have insurance experience, and we're a great kind of yin and yang to each other, where we, she fills in where I don't have the same expertise that she does, and then I'm also able to assist her as well when it comes to some of the things that she needs to know about, well, how does this additional insured form work, or what would people want to know, or how do other carriers do it? We have tribal knowledge, which is really helpful. But then there's also she thinks of things I never would have thought of. And that, I think that's kind of where the magic happens.
Well, and I'll take on to that, Becky. I think, so one of the things we talk about at Coterie is just maintaining the culture that we have, which is super special. And it almost seems like it's not real at first, but then, you get inside and it truly is genuine. But the big piece on that, Brett, is, and Becky just hit on this, is there's a extreme focus to diversity and inclusion. And Becky's talking a lot right now about diversity of thought. So we have a lot of people from different backgrounds that are bringing different experiences to hopefully help us not only innovate and ideate in ways that we wouldn't be able to in a room full of just insurance folks or just technology folks, but also see each other's blind spots, right? So there's going to be blind spots for folks that aren't insurance traditionalists, but maybe startup or technology traditionalists that Becky and I will never see, and vice versa. And, that we do a really great job too with, diversity of background, ethnicity, gender, those types of things too. But I think the diversity of thought is really something that I've noticed come through in a very healthy way at Coterie, which it's fun. It's just fun to have people make you think differently about things that you never would have thought differently about before, right?
And the culture actually not only encourages diversity of thought, but actually encourages you to have healthy questioning and have like, how are you thinking about that? Or what are you doing here? Or like, tell me your thought process. And that's also just has been kind of a breath of fresh air too, that I'm being challenged in ways I haven't, but also that I'm allowed to ask that, like, what broker Brett, what are you thinking with that background?
Yeah, right. Yeah. There's a story. I'll tell you a story about it for another day. Yeah, no, it's cool. And I've definitely heard some different things about onboarding, growth, different strategies your teams had to really connect and make sure even in this remote kind of distributed world, it's a human-human connection, kind of feel heard, feel seen. And I think that's going to be big going forward, kind of your level of commit. And then one thing I was going to kind of dovetail on, I listened to a podcast Will Shaw was on with, I want to say Reed Horowitz, the guy from Ivans, a couple of days ago, and just talked about best practices. Just because it's a way things have been done in insurance doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be most effective or efficient. We have our own quirks. I just got done with my license, renewing my license. I've been in this for like 8 years. I'm 36. I spent plenty of time, did construction, sold copiers, sold office moves. Everyone's like, you're really upbeat. I'm like, well, you've never had to sell office moves before and keep track of a crew, or like show up at a building with an invoice and somebody didn't pay and wait in the lobby and have somebody like pay you 2 days later because they're embarrassed that you showed up with an invoice. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, I always joke that insurance is like office moves, but without having to keep track of crews and to get paid every year. So how could you not, enjoy the upside? But yeah, no, I've loved it. My wife won't let me touch anything that's not insurance now. I tried to help my brother's cooler startup. He has like a Yeti competitor. It's called Rover. She's like, nope, It's got to be insurance. Anyway, it's been a good rule of thumb. Yeah.
So I just want this every time I've talked to you, Brett, it's always so much fun. I gotta ask, non-insurance related, how's the cat? How's
the cat's good. Indy's big. So we have a kid named Indy Beans. She's 7 or 8 months now. So I accidentally got her all stages cat food too early. And then she was really skinny for a little bit. And then we got kitten food and I just kept filling up the bowl. Then she got kind of fat. So we're working on it. We're tuning it. It's all a work in progress, even Indy's diet.
Happens to the best of us, man.
Right? Yeah. So it's training wheels. We don't have any kiddos yet. So we'll keep this little furry thing alive and well nurtured, and we'll kind of move from there. But she's good. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
Well, and I'll pile on to the non-insurance stuff. I feel like every time I pop on social media, Brett's eating something fantastic that's like homemade and home cooked. So talk to, I just curious, what's your favorite food, your dish ever? If you could eat this once a week, every week for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I'm half Mexican in Southern California. If you're like, you only get one type of food, it's easy to be Mexican food. But to Bobbie's point, my wife's in grad school. She's finishing up actually today. She has graduation, finished up rotation.
Oh, congrats to her.
Yeah, no, cooking kept me out of trouble. She'd be studying, it would occupy me. It was really COVID, started cooking a lot. Before that was more Weber grilling. But it's a good thing for somebody who's a little overly active. It keeps you occupied and it's kind of productive. Plus people want to hang out with you if they see you cooking good food. I think there's a little thing in the back of their brain that's like,
Yeah.
So that's fun.
It's a social thing.
Well, and to flip it back to you two, I've seen the softball, the skiing. It's fun to see you guys getting out there with your kiddos, staying active, having fun, little adventures. It's awesome.
Yeah, well, winters are long in Wisconsin, so we have to find something to do to the ski thing. And then we just flipped it right over into softball. So it's 43 degrees last night and trying to, sit through the first round of softball games. But it's good, right? They're just keeping the kids occupied to keep them out of trouble, Brett, is half the battle as a parent.
Well, that's the other fun thing, and maybe this is something to kind of wind down our national to international relationships now via InsurTech and Zoom from this weird time of history. there was even a point where I was doing like CEO hang during COVID, where like some really cool InsurTech CEOs would come on and just talk shop and lament. It's like there's no way these guys would have done it. Where guys and gals would have done this in like normal times. So it forced us into some different networking. I'm not sure the Ask Kodiak guys would have done trivia. If we didn't have that kind of rough and tumble. But I think that speaks well to the startup community, to sales folks, to people being ingenuitive, and we got kind of smacked in the mouth and we made something out of it.
Well, and sorry, Becky, I was just going to say, I think that's a proof point of our industry, that even though we introduce a ton of technology, there's still a large component to it, Brett, that's relationship driven, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, you think about the relationships that we had pre-COVID and how they've just almost like blossomed, with like that whole thing. So now, knowing you, knowing some of the team, like, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm confident that I wouldn't be where I am today had I not made some of those introductions and like just gotten more, I guess, smarter, educated about the world of InsurTech through those relationships. And that's super exciting.
All right, maybe we'll put a stamp on today. The relationships, appreciate them. It's not a spreadsheet world. We got to help each other think outside the box and problem solve and troubleshoot. It's all pretty complex. But I appreciate you two being open and knowledgeable. And the other thing I'll say is you two know so much more about the industry, underwriting, everything else than I do. And I appreciate like the knowledge share you give back to the community, and how some of those knowledgeable people are also like some of the nicest people in our industry too. It's a lot of fun to be around. But thank you two for coming on, and look forward to watching Coterie continue to climb and be creative and stay ahead of the curve.
Thanks for having us, Brett.
Of course.
It's always a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Bye.